The Bucks or the Nets? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show. It is great to be here with all of you. My name is Zach Starr, and I'll be joined alongside my co-host Gavin Toney in just a few minutes as he makes his way in. It is 11:04 here on the East Coast, and it is currently the 17th of November. We are finding a way to progress through the month. It's almost been below freezing for a few days now, so it's getting closer to the colder times. It's been a little warmer than it has been, so credit to Mother Nature for letting us have a few more days of warmth, but we'll have to see how it rolls out. A couple of big things going on across the world today in the sports world, of course, with the NBA. The trades are beginning to happen, and there's a lot going on that we're going to break down today. And the first thing I do want to go over is pretty much the story of the Milwaukee Bucks. And the reason for that is pretty simple. You have an MVP in Milwaukee in Giannis Antetokounmpo, if I pronounced that right, forgive me, and two-time MVP. Both times in the past 2 years, you've come short. You were the one seed in both years. The first time you go down to the team that would ultimately win the Eastern Conference and win the finals, and that is the Toronto Raptors with Kawhi Leonard. This time around, you lost to the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler. Giannis got hurt, but it was later in the series. It was not early in the series. It's not the reason that they lost. And I just want to see, just really quickly, if anyone recalls, a little while back, there was quite a player in Cleveland. And that team kept coming up short. And what happened? LeBron left. LeBron James, drafted first overall by the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2003, had the expectations through the roof for him, and damn it, did he fulfill them or what? He took that team to the NBA Finals. Those guys weren't scrubs on that team. I don't think some of the guys get the credit they deserve. But the bottom line is Cleveland failed to surround him with the right talent, right? And this is the first time around. And so he decided, I'm going to leave. He was there for 5, 6, 7 years. And in 2011, he said, I'm out. The decision, broadcast on ESPN, he's going to South Beach, joining Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh with the Miami Heat. They'd go on to win 2 of 4 finals. I mean, I'll be pretty honest with you. The Cavaliers dropped the ball. They dropped it twice, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Cleveland was his home city. It was all an ideal situation. This is a little bit of a different story. Giannis was a first-round pick. Came under the radar. It took a few years to really come into the league and develop. And Milwaukee would get knocked out of the playoffs by Terry Rozier and the Boston Celtics. The next year, they'd beat Kyrie Irving and the Boston Celtics. They'd lose to Toronto. And then this past year, we all know what happened. And so there's been all this speculation going on. We've talked about it here on this show about what's going to happen with Milwaukee, right? What's going to happen with this team? What's going to happen with their future? Giannis to the Warriors, Giannis to the Mavs, Giannis to the Heat, Giannis to the Raptors, Giannis to the Nets, we've heard at some points. But Giannis is staying right there in Milwaukee. But why is that? He's a humble guy. He comes from humble beginnings in Greece. There was a story once where he sent all his money back home. He didn't have enough for a ride. He was running to the games. A family recognized him and dropped him off at the stadium in Wisconsin. Heck, I mean, that's a great story. And people are comparing Giannis. They're comparing him to LeBron James. They're comparing him to some of these other guys. And he's coming up short in the playoffs a few times. But look at what he has to work with, right? And this is no insult to those guys. I mean, Wesley Matthews you've had for a few years, and Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez. I mean, you've had Eric Bledsoe now. And you just couldn't make it work. You got shut down by an incredible Heat team. We've said this before. I'm going to hold that stance. If this series was not played in a bubble, honestly, I think that the Miami Heat would not have went as far as they did. I find it hard to believe that guys like Tyler Hero would step up with a crowd noise and all those things. No disrespect to Tyler. He's a hell of a player, very talented. But here's a very clear thing to point out. This Bucks team is not as good as people make him out to be. Giannis is just a pure dominant player. And they tried to surround him with the best they can. But what have they been missing? A good point guard. No disrespect to who they've had through the years with Giannis. There was talks with Chris Paul going there. He's now in Phoenix. We'll have to break that trade down in just a little bit after we recap the NFL today, Monday Night Football. But here's the bottom line. They knew that if they don't get Giannis some help, he's going to leave. And instead of being like Cleveland, they went out and got him help. They made a trade for Drew Holiday, one of the best two-way players in the league. They're going to put him at point guard, I imagine. It cost them some things, but I think honestly they're going to be satisfied with this. This is going to be a game changer. You have him, you have Chris Middleton, you have Giannis, you have Brook Lopez. I mean, whoever's going to start the 2 and 4, DiVincenzo is involved in that trade, I believe. But ultimately, the big deal is that this team is now a serious contender. They're going to be a contender. For as long as Giannis is there, they're going to be a contender. But you just add more to it. And Budenholzer is a great coach in the regular season. Can they make that step up in the postseason? We're going to find out. And that's why the question today is the Bucks or the Nets. And there hasn't been a lot going on right now on the Sixers end. I've been very happy with the Sixers' moves in the front office. They haven't made any moves yet, legitimately speaking. Buddy Hield does one out of Sacramento. Apparently wants to go to Dallas, but we'll see how that plays out. But I do think that there's something important here that we have to focus on. I do think that it's so important that we focus on what matters, and that's talent, coaching, and that's going to be the ultimate question. So coming up after this, we're going to talk about, do the Sixers have enough? The Bucks and Nets are the top of the East right now. Miami Heat, you can't forget about them. So we'll find out how that all rolls down after this.
We are now offering a new product on our Teespring. Wear a mask in public. We are now supporting a custom-designed mask with our logo on it. Purchase it today, and 10% goes to a foundation of our viewer's choice. It offers a full nose and mouth coverage, single-sided print, includes 2 2-inch elastic ear loops, non-medical grade product, and finally, $1 from every mask sale is donated to a nonprofit to feed children in need. Enjoy today's episode.
Yes, and so Gavin will be joining us in a few minutes for anyone who is currently wondering. I am just checking my phone right there as far as some Twitter updates because we know it's going to be some conversation. So let's see if we missed anything. I'm just kind of scrolling through. It doesn't seem like much is going on the markets until later this afternoon. We imagine that we'll get some more active, but Milwaukee Bucks center Robin Lopez has declined his $5 million year option. Ben Simmons is pretty much solidified here for those who wanted to know. Let's take a look. This is an Adrian Wojnarowski tweet. Besides the 3 future first-round picks going to New Orleans, there are also swaps included in the deal. All in this is shaping up to be a draft compensation package similar to New Orleans' deal with Anthony Davis. And we've got some more breaking news from Shams. Magic swingman James Ennis will decline his $2.1 million option to become a free agent. Sixers could bring him back. He's a good role piece. Other than that, that's kind of all the updates we have right now. Now let's get to it. Here's the question. No, the Sixers are nowhere near the top of the East right now. There's no reason to believe they would be, because you got a team in Brooklyn with the best small forward in the league in Kevin Durant, or more, I guess I should say 3-4, because you still have Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James. And then you have yourselves one of the best point guards with the best handles of all time, arguably, if you want to compare him to Allen Iverson and Kyrie Irving. So I think, honestly speaking, there's no reason to believe they can't be a top contender. I personally don't believe it. I don't necessarily buy it in its entirety, but I do frankly think that this team is definitely going to be a top team in this conference. Now let's talk about Milwaukee. Again, Drew Holiday has just went to Milwaukee. For those who are missing out overnight, some of the deals that were made. You have Giannis, Chris Middleton, Mike Budenholzer as your head coach. Those are the 2 top teams right now. The Miami Heat are going to get back in that conversation. They are going to make a move before this deadline. We don't know what it's going to look like, but whether it's now or early in the season, they're going to make a move. Chris Paul's already off the board. Drew Holiday's already off the board. There's still some guys available that they're currently looking at. They have a lot of nice pieces in Miami. So those are my top 3 teams in the East. Now here's the question. What does Philly have to do to get into that conversation? You need shooters. For me personally, I love Ben Simmons running the point guard. Some people don't like it, but me personally, I do like Ben Simmons running the point guard. So for the Sixers to get into that conversation of a legitimate threat in the Eastern Conference after the moves that the Bucks have made overnight and potentially some future moves the Nets have made, and arguably what's going on in Miami, and then don't forget about Boston either. It is crucial the Sixers get some shooters and a bench. All right, don't go out and get a superstar. You don't need it. James Harden is tempting, but it's not what you need. I'm going to bring in Gavin now, kind of give him a quick rundown. Gavin, we're just discussing right now. I kind of gave a recap of the similarities between Cleveland and Milwaukee, where you have this superstar player, and he's playing out of his mind every year, and they keep coming short. And one of these guys, the decision on ESPN went down to Miami and competed and won championships there. He would return. But let's look at the similarities in Milwaukee because that's what's crucial. The bottom line is simple. Milwaukee needs help. Chris Middleton's not enough. Gavin, overnight, they went out and got it. So that's kind of the rundown I've been giving the viewers. I feel that the Bucks and the Nets are the top two in the Eastern Conference. The Sixers need to make some moves because now it's getting very competitive. And we said this yesterday, Gavin. We said the East is very competitive. But first of all, because I know we didn't get an opportunity to in the intro, how are you doing? It's great to have you on. Leaving me solo for a little bit, but we had that when the power went out here. But yes, Gavin, how are you doing today?
Well, my apologies, sir. Just getting some college stuff straightened out. Ran a little bit longer than I expected. I'm doing great. You held down the fort, ladies and gentlemen. For those who may or may not know, Zach lost power one day, and we didn't. Me and the guests did not know. It's all good. Yeah. Going to what you were talking about, Zach. The moves by the Milwaukee Bucks did not show much to me, Zach, and here's why. Drew Holiday is a nice complimentary piece, right? I would have took him here. All right, he was here early in his career, but I would have took him here. Any team would take Drew Holiday. Bogdanovich, and excuse me if I butchered his name by any way or form. I'm not a firm believer in those two and trying to help Giannis accomplish what he needs. Not saying that, not saying that Giannis, not saying that Drew Holiday can't do what he did, can't help him out, can't average 20 points. Drew Holiday was arguably the second best player or third best player on that Pelicans team this year behind Zion and behind Brandon Ingram. And when Zion was out, it was arguably him and Brandon Ingram. But Zach, you look at this Bucks team, they had a Malcolm Brogdon before, right? I look at this move and I say there's nothing that's going to replace the loss of Malcolm Brogdon. Even though Malcolm Brogdon did not have his best year last year, Zach, he did have an injury to start off the year and he was out a lot of time. Then he came back in the pandemic and obviously goes missing. But Zach, the moves last night from the Milwaukee Bucks do not faze me. It just goes and shows they're trying to cater to Giannis. But Zach, those moves do not make them an instant title contender. Again, Chris Middleton is a problem because he goes missing in the playoffs. Zach, you're correct on that. Drew Holiday, he's a great player, but how is it going to work? How is Mike Budenholzer going to work? Dom, our great friend of the show, always says Coach Bud Budenholzer is a great regular season coach, not a playoff coach, and he's not wrong. You've seen it time and time again. You go up 2-0 versus the Raptors, and then you lose. You go against the Heat this year, and ultimately you lose. Zach, I don't know. These moves do not prove a lot to me. They prove they're trying to find a way to keep Giannis here, but that's not going to get it done.
I don't know. I mean, look at this starting lineup: Drew Holiday, Bogdanovich, Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. They need depth, of course. Getting rid of DiVincenzo is going to hurt. But Gavin, are you trying to tell me that's not arguably the best starting five in the league on paper?
On paper, it is. But Zach, we said that all the time. We said about the Sixers with Al Horford, with Tobias Harris, with Josh Richardson, with Joel Embiid, with Ben Simmons. We always say that it looks good on paper. Just like we say the same thing with Chris Paul. I know we didn't get there yet, but Chris Paul, ladies and gentlemen, I did call that yesterday that Chris Paul will be getting moved to the Suns. We said that about it looks good on paper, but paper doesn't mean anything if it doesn't turn into anything. We saw that happen to the Sixers. Yeah, injuries and bad coaching, but and I thought Brook Lopez was a free agent. I thought he opted out.
That was his brother, Robin.
Oh, that was his brother. Okay, well, he doesn't matter.
In all seriousness, I mean, you make a good point, but right now, the Bucks are my favorite. They were the favorite last year because they have a two-time MVP there, Defensive Player of the Year last year, even though we don't necessarily agree with that. But you add a guy like Drew Holiday and Bogdanovich. That's going to make significant. That's already better than their starting lineup last year. We'll see what happens. But now let's turn it over to Brooklyn. And this will be our final discussion today before we get to the Western Conference. Brooklyn hasn't made any changes in the last 24 hours. Joe Harris is not expected to return. I see a couple teams are starting to reach out and make a deal for him.
I hope the Sixers are one of them.
I would hope so. Gavin, what are your expectations for Brooklyn this year?
Well, the expectation of Brooklyn this year is for them to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. You got two guys that both have championships to their names, but haven't been able to win one without their successors of who they played with. Zach, you sent me a post yesterday of Kevin Durant needed two other superstars to win, and
not to win, to beat LeBron James, but continue.
Or would it beat LeBron James? Well, guess what? He could do it single-handedly. He did on Christmas Day without Steph Curry.
And one game.
Okay, well, Zach, he also shot the ball over him a couple times. But this is not the time to argue, all right? And then you got a guy in Kyrie Irving who was his successor, LeBron James, who won a championship, even though Kyrie Irving hit the shot, goes to Boston, goes on a 16-game win streak his first time around, ends up getting injured. And the second time around, this mental calling Kyrie Irving a bad guy. Boston doesn't look as good as they do last year. They ultimately get bounced out by the Milwaukee Bucks last year. And then he lies, and then he goes to Brooklyn where he plays a couple games, looked nice in a couple, didn't win a lot of them, and then he sits down for the rest of the year. Zach, the expectations for them to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, some of them were saying going to the finals. It could happen. But when it comes to free agency, Zach, there's a lot of talk about James Harden. There's a lot of talk about acquiring James Harden. But don't forget about the people that made you guys what you were with the D'Angelo Russell team. Don't forget about Karis LeVert. Don't forget about Dinwiddie. Don't forget about Harris. Don't forget about Josh Allen. Because those guys right there I named would have to go into the trade to get James Harden, who, by the way, sources are saying that the Rockets are looking for a superstar in return, almost like a KD or Kyrie type. And no disrespect to none of those guys I just named, Karis LeVert looks nice some days, not a superstar. Dinwiddie looks nice some days, not a superstar. Harris can shoot the ball some days, not a superstar. And Jared Allen, even though I love Jared Allen, I think he could be a great center one day, not a superstar. Where is this idea of James Harden going there? James Harden can push and pull all he
wants. If I'm Brooklyn, I don't do it. I don't.
It looks nice on paper. That's a team that looks nice on paper, and you Photoshop a jersey of James Harden.
But I'd rather have the bench you just named.
Exactly. You gotta keep the pieces out there. That's the same thing we said about the Sixers. You try to go ruin the future, which would be Matisse Thybulle and Shake Milton and these guys, to go get a James Harden who's in his 30s, about to kind of almost, I don't want to say on the tail end of his career, but could be getting on the tail end of his career. Why don't you go get a guy in Buddy Hield? I'd rather
just stick with what you have because you're already going to be a top team in the East.
Well, if teams in the East are
there's no reason to go aggressive if I'm Brooklyn this year.
But Zach, Brooklyn,
they're still a playoff team with Kyrie playing a little bit and with Kevin Durant out all year. Put the
the thing with Brooklyn is there's no need to move the pieces because
don't touch it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, you haven't seen anything yet, so there's no real reason to move any or to ruin what you had. Zach, you came on the show yesterday and said D'Angelo Russell was a perfect fit. I don't disagree with you one bit. I think he was. That fit his style. The culture of Brooklyn fit D'Angelo Russell really. It was they had a great group of guys that played well together, that was able to win games, and had a great coach. And now you got two superstars and a new coach, and a Hall of Fame coach. And you're talking about adding another superstar without seeing the first two play again. Who even knows that Katie and Kyrie are going to work together, Zach? Do we even know that? We don't.
I don't think you know my opinion. I don't think they do. But again, it's too good on paper to not be able to play out. We'll see how it rolls out. But let's get to the West real quick. We'll hit one more topic here before we get to the recap of Monday Night Football. Gavin, Chris Paul to Phoenix. That was quite an asking price from OKC. Do you like this move by Phoenix?
I do like this move by Phoenix, but I don't know if I like getting rid of Kelly Oubre in that deal. Kelly Oubre to me, he looks like a good complimentary piece. They have something young down there, but excuse me, you need to get this deal done. You needed to give Devin Booker a chance to play with somebody else. All right, that's the name of the game in this year at the NBA nowadays. Is when there's a 1, there's a 2. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. All right, Boston has like 20 people. I can name a whole bunch of them, Zach. But Devin Booker went 8-0 in the bubble. Zach, I came on the show and said they should have had a right to be in the playoffs. You go out and you give this guy a playmaker who's going to be able to give DeAndre Ayton the ball, who's going to be able to get Devin Booker over even more. this Suns team will make the playoffs this year. They can make noise in the playoffs too, Zach. The asking price of the draft picks, which was going to be expected. I don't know if I would give that many away, but
you give away Ricky Rubio, right?
I was okay with that.
Give away
Ricky
Oubre,
not score.
and you give away the first round picks. That's too much. It's too much.
I wouldn't have did if Kelly Oubre was gonna be in that deal and Ty Jerome was in it. Well, if you got rid of two young talents and Oubre and Jerome and a couple first round picks, one of those guys had to come off the board, and that would have been Oubre. And if you want to keep the first round, or you take away one of the first round picks, but the Thunder are set for first round picks for a long time.
Thunder in a good spot. So, and we'll see how they roll out this year. They don't even need a tank because they're at some point going to get some nice pieces. Now let's finally go up to the Pacific Northwest. Big move, kind of underrated. Gavin, not so much of your beloved player, but Robert Covington has been sent up to Portland in exchange for Trevor Ariza. I think there was another guy or two involved in that. I think it's a little ironic that Ariza is returning to Houston. For those who don't know the backstory, he kind of sounded off on them last year. After going to Portland, he unfortunately had some injuries he was battling last year. Does adding Covington to that team help out a little bit? And what does that mean for Carmelo Anthony moving forward?
I think that hurts. It hurts Portland. Zach, the Portland Trailblazers were great with what they had. And remember,
they did not. Last time you remember, they didn't look so great. 8 seed, barely squeaked into the playoffs.
Barely squeaked into the playoffs. But Trevor Ariza, remember, he didn't play in the bubble. He's a great defensive asset. Yeah, Zach, you always show Robert Covington and always first team all defense. Shout out to Dean, even though Dean hasn't been on the show yet, but we're going to get him on here one day. First team all defense. We don't care. We don't care. You got Carmelo Anthony there. Zach, I'm not fond of Robert Covington. He's a hot and cold player. He could be a great complementary piece. He could play the center. You can go small ball with him. But it's like I don't like this move one bit. I think you should have stuck with what you had. I don't know. That's just me.
I like it personally. It adds another guy who can shoot the three. It adds another defender down low. And we'll have to see how it goes again. I think if they had Nurkic healthy all year, they would have went to the playoffs without a problem. That was kind of the big factor for the Portland team. They've been in the playoffs 3 of the past 4 years. And Nurkic was part of that key matchup before the Golden State series in the Western Conference Finals. Of course, he was not playing then. But Nurkic and Whiteside, I like that front court. Obviously, Lillard and McCollum, second best backcourt in my opinion. Obviously, given that props to the Splash Brothers. But we'll continue to cover that as some more moves come out. We'll see if the Sixers decide to make any moves. We like where this office is going. We just need some more talent now. Coming up after this, not real quick in the North, in my opinion. But Gavin, yes, go ahead.
Real quick, sorry to cut you off, and I know we got to keep going, but we talked about the Sixers making moves. They have to, because remember, John Wall and Bradley Beal, we don't know what John Wall we're going to see, but he's coming back. Miami, he's not going to get worse. They're going to argue going to get better. They might be a destination spot for a lot of free agents this year. And Atlanta's going to be on the rise.
Yes, there's a lot of teams on the rise, and you got to step up. The Sixers need to make a splash. Again, we'll be recapping a not so surprising, in my opinion, result in the NFC North after this.
Would you like to know how you can support the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show? If so, head down to the comments on our YouTube channel. You will see 2 links there. The first is our Teespring, where you can see a wide variety of apparel products, including our signature product, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show sweatshirts, offered in a variety of different colors, including gray, navy blue, and more. Finally, we have our Patreon page, where you can become a monthly donation member. 10% of all donations go towards an organization of our viewers' choice. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you can't donate, that's okay, because you can always share this.
Gavin took Chicago. I took Minnesota. Just barely Minnesota squeaked by with that victory. So, Gavin, I'll let you take the floor. What are some of your thoughts on Monday Night Football?
Well, I was correct. The Bears defense was going to do the job and hold Dalvin Cook to under 100 yards. He was 4 off sacks, so I don't know if I get any credit to that or whatsoever. Kirk Cousins is not the best when it comes to Monday night. He was 0-9 coming into the game. He wins yesterday. That Bears defense looked good. But, Zach, it goes back to what we were talking about before with Matt Nagy. That offense looks horrible out there, Zach. They're looking worse this year than they did last year. And they were the lowest scoring team last year, and they might be the lowest scoring team this year. Their defense, that's a wasted defense going on in
They're just not fundamentally sound. It's the Eagles we were talking about this morning. You know, there's just these routes just don't make sense. They're playing such tight bunch formations. They never spread anyone out. It's hard to watch, right? The only touchdown they had was Cordell Patterson's 104-yard touchdown. And something about Chicago, by the way, they have always had the best kick returners.
Well, Devin Hester, Tariq Cohen. All right, maybe we
need the greatest returner of all time.
Devin, punt returner, yes, but I still like Deion. I still like Deion Sanders. We can get that another day.
I always love when the safeties or cornerbacks are the guys that return, like Jabril Peppers for New York.
It's hard to like New York today, especially when there's a Giants fan talking trash at 7:30 in the morning. But that's besides the point. For those who may or may not know, it's a class joke. Me and Zach know where that's from. But Zach, last night's game, the Bears defense did what they were supposed to do. They gave Kirk Cousins a hell of a time. All right, Justin Jefferson, he looked well again. Thanks a lot, Howie. Adam Thielen had 2 touchdown catches last night. But it goes back again, Zach. It goes back to how bad the Bears' offense really is. Is this Bears' offense worse this year, or was last year bad? Because I think this year's worse, and you lost pieces this year.
I mean, your O-line is terrible. You have the offensive weapons. You have 2 quarterbacks, both of them, who I think have very nice arms. And frankly, your play calling is bad. If you give up 19 points a game at most, you should be a lot better than you are right now. And this has been a problem for a while for them. They went out and paid Nick Foles in the offseason. Trubisky never had a true chance. And it's pretty prevalent now that Nick Foles is not the answer in Chicago, or that simply put, Matt Nagy is not the guy to lead them to the promised land.
They need to give Jordan Howard a call because that's when their offense was at best.
Jordan Howard was waived by Miami yesterday.
He only had 28 touches, 33 yards, so that's still unfair for him. But, Zach, the Bears' offense has not looked great ever since Jordan Howard has left them. Jordan Howard was their guy in the red zone. He was their guy that used to move the ball down the field for them. Make Mitchell Trubisky's job a little bit easier. Not a lot easier, but a little bit easier. Remember, Zach, Mitchell Trubisky's best year was Jordan Howard's last year.
Howard and Tariq Cohen that year.
Matt Nagy's first year.
The O-line was healthy. Matt Nagy was calling creative plays. How do you just magically forget how to do play calling?
I mean, we can have the same thing about Doug Peterson. What is with
and by the way, hot take here. I'm gonna butcher. Is it Eric? It's Bieniemy.
Eric Bieniemy, yes, sir.
He will be the head coach of either the Bears or the Eagles after this season, or the Jets.
I would look. First of all, I don't wish Eric Bieniemy the Jets job at all because nobody wants that dumpster fire. But Adam Gase deserves to be fired. Zach, we know that. Maybe go and get Trevor Lawrence. He is a quarterback whisperer. He did work on Patrick Mahomes. I would like to see him in Atlanta, even though the coach they have down there now is doing great. But Zach, what is with coaches that has success? Doug Pearson.
They're both from the Andy Reid tree. They're both the same. They're from the same cloth.
But they had success in their second season. Well, Doug Pearson in the second season, and obviously Matt Nagy in his first. They look not talented. They have no lack of offensive experience. They don't know what they're doing anymore.
Their formations are ugly. I don't know what I'm looking at when I'm watching. I don't know what I'm looking at when I see these formations, these tight bunch formations. They're all running around the field. Only one guy's going to be open. That's not how you do it. What happened to slants, Gav? They don't do that. They don't do this with either.
What happened to the drags, the curls?
It's basic stuff, and they have the talent in there. And we're talking this morning how to do option routes with our wide receivers. Simplify the dang offense and see how it works out. It's a lot easier. And when it goes back to Mitchell Trubisky being benched, yes, he was getting torched by Atlanta, but was benching him the option? No. It's not the reason they're struggling.
I think even though Mitchell Trubisky was struggling, he wasn't looking his best. He was undefeated at the time, Zach. He wasn't losing. He didn't have a loss at the time. He was losing in the moment. But Zach, the Bears had barely won. The only win, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only win Nick Foles has since his initial start was Tampa, correct?
Just Tampa.
Has not won ever since. And
their run game was looking really good that night.
And haven't ran the ball effectively ever since either.
No, so it's a tough situation for them. Obviously, their run game is injured, but clearly the quarterback is not going to be the thing there. And if they decide to move on, they're not going to move on. But if they decide to bench Carson Wentz at some point, you're going to see similar results with a different quarterback.
We're just putting Jalen Hurts in, and Zach. This goes back to what you were telling me over the weekend. You run it, and you came on yesterday and said this. Jalen Hurts has ran the same damn play multiple times, right? And has no success. He threw the ball one time, one or two times, one time, and he has one completion for 15 yards. Nothing else. So you think Jalen Hurts is going to come in and do something, magically lift the Eagles to a winning record? Are you guys all right? I don't know what. I'm a Jalen Hurts guy. Zach, I was high on Jalen Hurts, but I still love Wentz. We're right now we're watching in Chicago and in Philly. We're watching tales of bad coaches, and I want to get back to what you said. Your hot take was Doug Pearson gets fired after this year. Yes or no? Is that what you're saying? I'm not worried about the other two teams that you named. I'm just worried about the green.
I don't think so, but I think it's time to get an offense coordinator and delegate the play calling to somebody else.
I'll tell you what,
I've said it before. He's a people person, and the guys respect him, but let someone else do the play calling because you can't do it for your life.
I'll tell you what, Zach. You know what? I like Eric Bieniemy. I like what he's done down there in Kansas City, especially with him building Patrick Mahomes and making Patrick Mahomes effectively, and obviously Andy Reid perfecting, with the weapons around him and stuff, and putting him in an offense that does well. By the way, Doug Pearson, maybe you should listen to Andy Reid and how he puts his guys in successes to be successful. Look where they put Tyreek Hill. They put Tyreek Hill everywhere. Tyreek Hill's all over the screen. Look at Travis Kelce. They do flip screens inside. Wow, you never thought about doing that with Dallas Goedert? I know our offensive line sucks, but just a thought.
Simplicity. It's not complicated. And finally, here, Gavin, just a quick thing. The power rankings from NBC Sports have just been released. The Eagles currently sit at 25. The New York Giants currently sit at 20. Just for those people that wanted to know. Just scrolling up the list of any other shockers. San Fran is 17. Cleveland, who we play next week, at 16. Seattle is at 13. They're below Vegas. They're below Miami, who's 11. Arizona's 10. Baltimore 9. Rams are 8. Bills are 7. Colts are 6. Interesting one. Bucks are 5. Packers are 4. Saints are 3. Steelers are 2. And the Chiefs are 1. Gavin.
And I'm okay with that. The 1 and 2 I'm okay with because, Zach, the Chiefs play a harder schedule than the Steelers do. And I get so much looks when I say the Steelers are overrated. Zach, who the hell had they played except for Baltimore?
They played well against Baltimore.
Yeah, but Zach, who? Tennessee and Baltimore? Baltimore once?
And they were good in both games.
And they almost lost both games.
Because they're playing good teams. If you almost lose the Super Bowl, you still win the Super Bowl.
But Zach, what I'm trying to say is this record, we talked about the record for Justin Herbert, right? We talked about how the record does not affect his play. Well, Zach, the thing is, I could go 10-0 beating up on bad teams. Put me in a division where Baltimore's struggling with the run game because Mark Ingram is hurt and the offensive line is banged up. Let me beat up on Joe Burrow and like Zach, what is there to be proud of? And Cleveland, Baker Mayfield's a mess, but that's neither here nor there. Zach, there's nothing to be proud about the Pittsburgh Steelers for. They're the only team they've beaten, good teams they've beaten, and they barely won. Both teams, by the way, Zach, both teams had a chance to win but didn't do it. Obviously, Gostkowski missed a game-winning field goal, and Lamar Jackson fumbled at the end. But Zach, put him against the Chiefs. Let's see where it goes. Let's see how that goes.
We'll see how it goes. And the Chiefs play Vegas on Sunday night. Besides that, everybody, thank you for joining us today. We're going to continue to supply updates throughout the rest of the week as free agency buzz continues in the NBA. Thursday Night Football this week will be coming up. Who does play on Thursday? I think it's a good matchup, actually.
It's Cardinals and the Seahawks.
The Cardinals and Seahawks, that's right.
I can't hate this week. I cannot hate this week.
It's going to be a good matchup, and we'll see if Seattle can prevail. Because Russell Wilson never has 3 bad weeks in a row. We'll see if he can pick it up.
Zach, I can't say that no more. He proved me wrong. He had 2 bad back-to-back weeks. But Zach, real quick, and I want you to think on this and come on tomorrow's show and tell me about it. Would you like to see Eric Bieniemy take over as head coach and Doug Pearson be something else but still be here?
If Doug gets fired, he's not going to be involved in this organization.
I
do
think he
know
should
that.
be fired. I think he should be fired.
We'll see how it plays out. Eagles, a lot to break down. I'm going to continue to watch film and see what I can figure out and give us our game plan towards the rest of the week. We play Cleveland on Sunday. However, quick note as well, the Giants did have a positive COVID case last night. We'll see if that affects the Eagles this week. We'll stay tuned with that. Washington also had one. We'll continue to see how it plays out. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today.
By the way, Giants fans, hush your mouth. You're still in second place.
Have a great day.
Have a good one.
If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. In addition, hit that bell icon and set it to all to get reminded of when we go live and when we post excerpts